Hello and welcome to episode 27 of the Youth Intake Challenge with Dulwich Hamlet. Things haven't been going as great as we can. Apologies for not getting the video out sooner, but I've been away this week. But I will give you an update of where we are. We're about 20 games into the season. We've got the Youth Intake preview. Hopefully that's going to help us towards the end of the season, give us something to kind of work towards. I think we're massively being hampered by being semi-professional, but let's get into it, dive deep and see how we're getting on. And we're better to start then with the schedule. We had a terrific pre-season. We'd kept all the players we wanted to keep. We'd won all our pre-season friendlies and we'd won the opening game of the season. We followed up with another victory and things were going good. And then we hit a series of 5 draws in a row. A 0-0, a 2-2, well 3 2-2s and a 1-1. We're getting some good goals in there, but we're just not able to hold out defensively, which is a surprise because we've got 2 of the best defenders, I think, in the league. Certainly from a youth intake point of view, which put us on a bit of a setback. We did recover and win a couple of games as we went into September against FC United and Barrow. Again, some really good results. A 5-2 against FC United away. Magnificent. Beating Barrow at home 3-1. Again, I thought we'd turned the corner. We were still unbeaten at that stage of the season, but then losses to Dorking and Eastleigh kind of knocked us down a little bit. We got a win against Solihull Motors away. Effie Atodo playing at a very rare start, and Joshua Moses with the goals. So the 2 wingers in essence. But again, we slumped to another couple of defeats again against Barnet and Shrewsbury. We then played Boreham Wood, which took us 2 attempts to get through in the FA Cup qualifying round, and we managed to get to the FA Cup first round, which was a good achievement. Couple wins against Aldershot and Maidstone pulled us up a league. I think by this stage we were kind of trying to drift in towards the bottom part of the playoffs, which was looking fantastic from a pre-season prediction of down near the bottom. A draw with Bath, which isn't a terrible result, and then what was really quite frustrating is we held on for ages against Shrewsbury, but in the 79th minute they broke our resolve and they nicked away with a 1-0 win to dump us out the FA Cup. Not a competition we would have realistically won, but it's always nice being in that. We then rolled into November and we didn't pick up a single win. I mean, we got losses away at Cheltenham and away at Port Vale, and we picked up 3 draws in 2 home games against Dagenham and Chester, and away game at Torquay. Start of December has been a little bit better. We won in the FA Trophy 3rd round against Ebbsfleet. Jake Gilder and Ruari Bellingham with the goals. Gilder's starting to take a position up front now as we reintroduced Dimitriadis, who was away for a huge number of international games. And then a 1-0 win against FC Halifax with Kasaba Rakso, one of the new favourites, kind of getting the goal in that game and getting his 3 points on the board. Moving into what the table looks like then, we're kind of just outside the playoffs, 33 points, miles off the top. I think we're pretty clear at the bottom, so in that kind of upper mid-table position where a few wins should get us back in the playoffs, which I'm hoping the second half of the season will pay dividends with that if the players just develop a little bit more and little tactical tweaks take effect to get us a few more points and a few more results. Fairly steady. We've still got quite a few draws, which is a bit disappointing. A couple of them turning into wins puts us right in the mix for the playoffs, but it's not quite panned out that way. In terms of the squad, not quite as green as we've seen in previous weeks. The average rating's not been magnificent. We've still got some really good players in there. Dean Spence massively struggling for fitness. We do rest him occasionally, but every time we rest him he complains he's not getting enough game time, so it's a fine balancing act. Atienza and McAvoy, the 2 centre halves, are both wanted. One's wanted by Barnet, Bradford and Oldham, the other one by Bradford, Oldham, Rochdale and Blackpool. Michael Cartman, who's come back from his loan spell last year, he's only 19, he's having a good season, one of the first names in the midfield. Again, he's wanted by Preston, Reading, Walsall, Woking and Salford. We managed to stave them off for the time being. If I was going to sell any of them players, I think it would be Dean Spence for a monumental 6-figure number, but no one's come in for him yet. But that might be something that swings as financially to kind of cash in on him and reinvest in the squad through the youth system and hopefully going professional again. Dimitriadis, again, he's played a lot of international games recently. He's just come back, but again, low on fitness. In terms of the players that kind of played the most games, Fredericks, no surprising goals. Gilder, who's taken more of a... He switches between left wing and up front. I think we're going to have to carry on playing him up front as we put Dimitriadis back into the team. Atienza, Brathwaite, Moses, McAvoy, all having really good, strong seasons, all with a little bit of development still to go, so that's really positive news. Carl Peterson's gone off the boil a little bit. He's not. He had a fantastic first season. His mental game's brilliant. As a deep line playmaker, him and Kasaba Rakso swap around a little bit. But I would have thought he would have taken a little bit more of a developmental curve by now. But as you can see, he's stagnated in recent months, not really pushing up anywhere. So it's a hard one because he's one of them players that we've got him for another couple of years. Exposure to games should get him to develop, but we're also kind of hampering Kasaba Rakso, who is his understudy in essence, but he's wanted by Sheffield Wednesday, I think, yeah. And again, his development's been slightly better progress-wise, so he's on an upward curve. And I suppose this happens the younger you are as you first settle into the team, but he's a little bit more technically gifted, shall we say. So we might need to get him in the team more and move the others out. I've thinned the squad out massively, so we've kind of got the 25-man squad. I have sent some players out on loan, and I have let a few go to try and keep the squad numbers down. You see the under-18 squad not quite as inflated as it was previously. We've brought some of them numbers down, and we'll look to thin out a few more as we go on. Certainly the ones who aren't going to quite make 3 stars. Ben Nchammer's one that I'm desperately trying to move on, but we can't seem to find a buyer for. But again, some of these other players will ship on. What else have we got then? Tactics wise, we've gone back to defensive. Now we were looking positive, and at the start of the season everything was rosy and we were doing well and we were winning games. Since we've started to slip in results, I've defaulted back to a deep line playmaker to try and make us a little bit more sturdier. Sometimes looking at the analysis of what areas you've got quite covered on the pitch. I think previously with an attacking midfielder we had a few gaps down the back, which I've just looked to strengthen that position, and the overall familiarity in this position is slightly better. So I think we're going to stick with this for a few games to try and get us back up into the playoffs and hopefully end the season strong. But yeah, you can see Spence and Dimitriadis flagged because they're struggling for rests, but overall not too bad. Dynamics wise, we're still doing alright. We've not been tipped to be sacked or anything. We've not had any scares. The atmosphere is good, but it's not quite as good as it could be. Spence wants more games. Cockings wants more games, and he's another one that's difficult to do. If I put him in a direct comparison with Brathwaite, who is the two that are kind of competing for that left back position, Brathwaite to me is a standout, better defender. Because he's got a bit more development potential to him as well, I think it's best to go with Brathwaite at the expense of Cockings. And if he gets upset and wants to leave, we're just going to have to let him go, because ultimately the development of Brathwaite is far more important for the development of the club. But these are tough decisions you have to take. Lamar Hams wants more game times, but he's just not scoring enough goals, and it's largely down to his technical ability. His finishing's only 4. For a striker, your finishing being 4 isn't ideal. You can't dribble. So it's a shame, but unless them stats go up, and I'm sure they would have if we were professional, but again I think we've been hampered by not being a professional club, and that's something I keep trying to address, but we've not managed to get over the line. And Harley Purdy's the other one. He wants more game time, but again at centre half he's behind McAvoy and Atienza, and as deep line playmaker he's behind Peterson and Kasaba, so he's probably not going to get the time he wants. So again, we might have to let him go because he's not got too much more development left in him. In terms of the developments, we've got the under-18 squad, which you've got Ali Gundes, he's coming on strong. Gerwin Cartwright, another centre half, might develop while he's out on loan. Asquith Lashley's out on loan, as is Moody. So some of these players might do a Cartman and go out of a really good season on loan, come back and reintegrate into the team. Mike Martin's one that I would really want to get into the first team. He's got high potential. I mean, it says left back, but I think he's more of a centre back because he's quite tall. He's got the marking, he's got the jumping reach. I think he might be more of a centre half, but we need to introduce him into the squad some way. But it's difficult because he's only 16, and I don't want to loan him out because I think until they're 18 they're better off training with your club, despite the fact that we're not professional. I know for those who are a bit more aware of how it works than me. Into the youth intake then, that's what we've got to work with. Again, potential for a golden generation of the club. I think it's partly to do with the standard of the players we've got. What's quite promising is there's 2 potential strikers coming through, which we need massively. We need someone to come in and score goals. We need a natural finisher. 3 centre midfielders, probably not as worried about that, although if we let Dean Spence go and Peterson or someone doesn't want to stay, we can maybe recirculate them players in there. And then 3 centre halves, which is good because we've got Atienza and McAvoy, but we need a bit more depth beyond there. Other ones, full backs, I would have liked more. Right back would have been handy. Left back, I think we're all right. Goalkeeper, I think we're still all right. But overall, I think the players coming in look like they're going to fit what we need. So that's a positive thing to look forward to. Then final thing to look at really is in terms of the finances. We're still in the black, so we've got 73,000. We're not as positive as we were. But since we bought the stadium, it has been largely positive. We just need it to just be a little bit more moving upwards, because I think the projection isn't pretty. So as you can see, we're on a downward spiral. What we need to do is just kind of sort out some of this turnover and expenditure to get us going the other way. So that's something I'll work on, and it's probably thinning the under 18 squads down a little bit more, being cognizant of the fact that we need to bring in more players through the intake. So that's largely the update of what's been going on. They think we're doing an unbelievable job. We still haven't signed any players. We're still progressing the Youth Intake Challenge, and in terms of the number of seasons we've got, I think the best way to look at it is through here. It's there you go. So again, it's been largely positive. We started in the south. We did get promoted. We had a manager of the month once, a manager of the year, and we won the Vanarama National League South. We've had nothing since then. We had a 16th in the first season in the National League, a 4th where we got into the playoffs, and we were a bit unfortunate. Only recently avoided relegation, 18th place. I mean, it was comfortable towards the end, but it was really risky for a while. And then let's see what happens in 32-33 season. I think we've got an outside chance of making the playoffs, but like it was in 2030-31, I don't know if we're strong enough to get through them, but it's nice to be in that. Hopefully that served as a good update. Until next time, I'll play through and get us to the youth intake. That's the bit everyone wants to see. I'm hoping it's going to be a good one. We really need it to be a good one. And until next time, enjoy yourselves. I'll try and get another video out in between. So after releasing this, I'll probably get back to the Unemployed to Unstoppable. For anyone who's not following that, that's where we're currently with Millwall, vying to win the Premier League and hopefully the Champions League this season. And then following that, that should be the release of the next Youth Intake Challenge. So keep an eye out for it. Until next time, enjoy yourselves, and I'll see you soon.